I was under the hood of my Chevy when I heard them laughing. Not the good kind of laughing. The kind that makes your stomach twist into knots and your hands clench around the wrench you're holding. I swear, Lisa, your husband is like a walking comedy show, came the voice through the kitchen window. My wife Jennifer's best friend Amanda always had that nasal tone that could cut glass. I froze, engine oil dripping onto my work boots. Tell me about it, Jennifer replied, and I could hear the eye roll in her voice. Last night he tried to be romantic. Candles, wine, the whole pathetic routine. I had to fake a headache just to get out of it. More laughter. 3 voices now. Amanda, Jennifer, and someone else I couldn't identify. At least he tries, the third voice said. My ex never even bothered. Oh, trust me, the trying makes it worse, Jennifer continued. He thinks he's this tough guy because he used to box in college. Now look at him, crawling around under cars like some grease monkey. I make twice what he does at the PR firm, and he still acts like he's the man of the house. I set the wrench down carefully, wiping my hands on my jeans. 23 years old when we met, 38 now, 15 years of marriage, and this is what I got. Comedy material for her girls' night. The worst part is how clueless he is, Jennifer went on. He actually thinks I'm going to that wellness retreat with you guys next weekend. If he only knew what we're really planning. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was watering her roses across the fence. She caught my eye and shook her head sympathetically. In a neighborhood like ours, everyone knew everyone's business, and sound carried. David's such a good man, she'd told me just last week. You deserve better than what you're getting. I'd brushed it off then. Now, crouched next to my car in the fading evening light, I realized she'd been trying to tell me something. Speaking of the retreat, Amanda's voice drifted out again. Richard confirmed the penthouse is available. 3 days of pure luxury while your husband thinks we're doing yoga and drinking green smoothies. Richard, Jennifer's boss at Morrison & Associates, the same Richard she'd been working late with for the past 6 months. I still can't believe you're actually doing this, the third voice said. Why not? Jennifer laughed. David's too stupid to figure it out, and even if he did, what's he going to do? Leave me? He needs me more than I need him. Besides, Richard's everything David isn't: successful, confident, sophisticated. I stood up slowly, my knees creaking. 38 wasn't old, but 15 years of fixing other people's problems, first as a mechanic, then transitioning to IT work, had taken its toll. Jennifer was right about one thing. She did make more money. Her PR job paid well, and she never let me forget it. But she was wrong about everything else. I walked around to the front of the house, making enough noise that they'd hear me coming. By the time I stepped through the front door, they were clustered around the kitchen island, wine glasses in hand, looking like butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. Hey, honey, Jennifer smiled, that practiced PR smile she used on difficult clients. How's the car? Fixed, I said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. Ladies, Amanda and the third woman. Someone from Jennifer's yoga class, I thought, nodded politely. They were all dressed like they'd stepped out of a magazine, perfect makeup and designer clothes that probably cost more than I made in a week. We were just planning our retreat, Jennifer said. 3 days at that new wellness center upstate. You know, meditation, healthy eating, digital detox. Sounds relaxing, I said, taking a long pull from my beer. When do you leave? Friday morning. We'll be back Sunday night. I nodded, studying her face. She was beautiful. I'd give her that. Blonde hair that cost a fortune to maintain. Green eyes, the kind of smile that had convinced me to propose after 6 months of dating. But looking at her now, all I could see was the calculation behind those eyes. Well, you girls have fun, I said. I'll probably catch up on some projects around the house. After they left, Jennifer went upstairs to take a shower. I sat in my garage, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects, thinking about what I'd heard. 23 years old when we met. She'd been working at a small marketing firm, ambitious and driven. I'd been finishing up my associate's degree in computer science, working part-time at Murphy's Garage to pay the bills. She'd seemed impressed by my plans, my work ethic, my dreams of starting my own IT consulting business. Those dreams had gotten sidelined when her career took off. Someone had to handle the house, the maintenance, the practical stuff that kept our life running smoothly. I'd been happy to do it, proud of her success. Now I wondered if she'd ever respected any of it. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our joint bank account. Jennifer handled most of the finances, another thing she was better at, but I still had access to everything. savings, checking, credit cards, investment accounts. We'd built a decent life together, or so I'd thought. The house was in both our names, the cars too. Everything split 50-50, the way we'd agreed when we got married. But trust? That was something you couldn't divide up in a divorce settlement. I finished my beer and started making a mental list. If Jennifer wanted to play games, I'd give her a game she'd never forget. But first, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. Friday morning came with the kind of gray sky that matched my mood. I watched from the bedroom window as Jennifer loaded her designer luggage into Amanda's Range Rover. She was wearing yoga pants and a matching top that probably cost more than most people's rent. Her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. "I'll miss you," she said when she came back inside for her purse. The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly I almost believed it myself. "Miss you too," I replied, giving her a kiss on the cheek. "Have fun with your meditation and whatever else you're planning." Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or suspicion, but it passed quickly. "I'll call you tonight," she said, looking forward to it. After they drove away, I waited exactly 30 minutes. Then I got to work. The first stop was our home office. Jennifer kept most of her important papers in a filing cabinet she thought I never touched. The key was hidden under her jewelry box, not very creative for someone in the communications business. Inside, I found copies of our bank statements, insurance policies, and investment records. Everything looked normal until I got to the credit card statements. Jennifer had been using our joint card for expenses I didn't recognize, expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel charges, shopping sprees that coincided with her late nights at the office. But the real revelation was in her personal laptop. Jennifer had always been careless with passwords, using variations of our anniversary date for everything. It took me 3 tries to get into her email. What I found there made my hands shake. Months of correspondence with Richard Morrison, her boss. It had started professionally enough. Project updates, client discussions, scheduling meetings. But by February, the tone had changed completely. "Can't stop thinking about yesterday," read one email from Richard. "When can we do it again?" Jennifer's response: "David's working late Tuesday. Come over around 8. Tuesday. The same Tuesday she'd told me she was having dinner with her sister. I scrolled through weeks of messages, each one a small knife twist. They weren't just having an affair, they were laughing about it. About me. "He actually bought me flowers yesterday," Jennifer had written. "Felt so guilty I almost confessed everything. Almost." Richard's reply: "Don't feel guilty. You deserve someone who appreciates what you bring to the table. Speaking of which, I made reservations at that place you wanted to try. Tell him you're working late again." The wellness retreat was a complete fabrication. They were spending the weekend at Richard's lake house, 3 hours upstate. Amanda was covering for them, probably getting paid for her trouble. But the worst part was a group chat I found on Jennifer's phone. She'd left it charging in the kitchen while she showered. The chat included Amanda, Jennifer, and 2 other women from her social circle. The conversation history made me physically ill. "David tried to be romantic again last night," Jennifer had written just 2 days ago. "I swear, it's like being married to a golden retriever. All enthusiasm, no skill." The responses were a chorus of laughing emojis and increasingly cruel comments about my appearance, my job, my pathetic attempts at maintaining our relationship. Amanda had chimed in, "At least he tries. Remember when he surprised you for your birthday? The look on your face was priceless." "I wanted to crawl under the table," Jennifer replied. "He'd planned this whole elaborate thing, and all I could think about was how Richard would have done it better." I set the phone down and walked outside, needing air. Mrs. Patterson was in her garden again, and she took one look at my face and frowned. "You okay, David?" "Getting there," I said. She nodded knowingly. Sometimes the hardest part is admitting what you already know. I spent the rest of the day planning. By evening, I had a complete picture of Jennifer's deception and a rough outline of what I was going to do about it. The phone call came at 8:30, right on schedule. "Hi, honey." Jennifer's voice was bright and cheerful. "How was your day?" "Productive," I said. "How's the retreat?" "Oh, very centering. We did this amazing meditation session this morning, and the food is incredible. All organic, locally sourced." In the background, I could hear what sounded like a restaurant. Clinking glasses, conversation, definitely not a wellness center. "That's great," I said. "I'm proud of you for taking time for yourself." "Thanks, sweetie. You're the best." After she hung up, I sat in our empty house and smiled for the first time in months. Jennifer thought she was playing me, but she had no idea what she'd started. I'd spent 15 years being the reliable one, the steady one, the one who kept everything running smoothly while she chased her ambitions. I'd been happy to do it because I thought we were building something together. Now I realized I'd just been building her a platform to stand on while she looked down at me. But here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you a tremendous advantage. Jennifer saw me as a simple, predictable man who would never rock the boat. She'd forgotten that before I became the reliable husband, I'd been someone else entirely. Time to remind her. Saturday morning, I was up before dawn. Jennifer's call the night before had been brief, more meditation and digital detox nonsense. But I'd heard Richard's voice in the background asking about wine preferences. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, surrounded by papers and printouts. Everything I needed was right there: account numbers, passwords, legal documents, and a detailed timeline of Jennifer's lies. The beauty of being married to someone for 15 years is that you know all their habits. Jennifer was organized but predictable. She used the same passwords, shopped at the same stores, followed the same routines. She'd built her deception on the assumption that I was too trusting or too stupid to notice. She was wrong on both counts. My first stop was our bank's website. Jennifer might handle most of our finances, but both our names were on every account. I transferred half of our savings, my legal half, into a new account I'd opened Friday afternoon. Then I did the same with our checking account and our investment portfolio. Next, I called our credit card companies. I need to report suspicious activity, I told each customer service representative. My wife's card may have been compromised. It wasn't technically a lie. I was suspicious of her activity. They froze the cards immediately, promising new ones within 3 business days. By 10 a.m., Jennifer's financial foundation was shaking, and she didn't even know it yet. The house was next. I'd spent the morning packing everything that mattered to me: my tools, my computer equipment, important documents, and a few sentimental items. Everything fit in my truck with room to spare. Funny how little space a man's life actually takes up when you strip away all the shared stuff. I wasn't leaving, not yet, but I was preparing. The phone rang at 11:30, Jennifer's number. David? Her voice was strained, panicked. There's something wrong with my credit card. It got declined at brunch. That's weird, I said, injecting concern into my voice. Did you call the bank? They said there was suspicious activity and froze the account. They're sending new cards, but it'll take days. Can you transfer some money to my personal checking? Jennifer's personal checking account had exactly $47 in it. She'd been using our joint accounts for everything, including funding her affair. Of course, I said. How much do you need? Maybe 1,000? We wanted to do some shopping this afternoon, and Amanda's already covered lunch. No problem. I'll take care of it right now. I transferred exactly $100. All set, I told her when I called back. Should show up in an hour or two. Thanks, honey. You're a lifesaver. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent the afternoon at Murphy's garage, where I'd worked part-time in college. Old Murphy was still there, grayer and crankier but sharp as ever. Heard you've been having some troubles, he said without preamble. Murphy had never been one for small talk. Word travels fast. Your neighbor Mrs. Patterson shops at the same grocery store as my wife. Says your Jennifer's been stepping out. I nodded. Seems that way, Murphy grunted, wiping his hands on a rag. You know, I offered you a partnership here 5 years ago. You turned me down because your wife thought it wasn't professional enough. I remember. Offer's still open. Business is good, and I could use someone with your skills, both mechanical and computer. I looked around the garage, the organized chaos of tools and parts, the honest smell of motor oil and hard work. It felt more like home than my actual house had in years. Let me think about it, I said. Don't think too long. Life's short, and you've wasted enough time already. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Something's wrong with the transfer. Only showing $100. Can you check? I typed back. Bank says that's what I sent. Maybe there's a delay with the rest? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. This isn't enough for what we need. Sorry, that's all I can spare right now. Unexpected car repair this morning. The response came immediately. What car repair? You didn't mention any car repair. I smiled. Jennifer was starting to realize that maybe she didn't know everything about what I was doing. The Honda's been making noise. Took it to Murphy's. Should have mentioned it. How much? 900. But it's fixed now. There was no response for 20 minutes. When my phone finally rang, Jennifer's voice was tight, with barely controlled anger. David, I need you to be straight with me. What's going on? What do you mean? The credit cards, the bank transfer, now this car repair. It feels like you're playing games. I let the silence stretch out, counting to 10 before responding. Jennifer, I'm sitting in our house, alone, on a Saturday night while you're off finding yourself at some wellness retreat. I had to handle a car emergency by myself, and I'm doing my best to help you out financially, even though money's tight. I'm not sure what games you think I'm playing. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, more calculated. You're right, I'm sorry. This whole digital detox thing has me on edge, and when the cards got declined, I panicked. I know you're doing your best. I always do. I love you, David. The words hung in the air like smoke. 3 days ago, they might have meant something. Now they just sounded like another lie in a long series of lies. Love you too, I said. Enjoy the rest of your retreat. After she hung up, I opened a beer and sat on our back porch, looking out at the yard I'd spent countless weekends maintaining. The garden Jennifer had wanted but never helped with. The deck I'd built with my own hands. The fence I'd painted every 3 years like clockwork. All of it suddenly felt like evidence of a life I'd been living alone, even when I thought I was sharing it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Richard Morrison. We need to talk. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Let him wonder. Sunday evening brought Jennifer home with a glow that had nothing to do with meditation, and everything to do with spending 3 days with another man. She hugged me at the door like we were performing for an audience, her smile bright and brittle. I missed you so much, she said, the lie rolling off her tongue with practiced ease. Missed you too, I replied, noting the expensive shopping bags she was trying to hide behind her luggage. How was the retreat? Life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. I feel like a completely new person. She wasn't wrong about that. Over dinner, she regaled me with stories about yoga sessions and organic meals, her eyes bright with the kind of excitement that comes from successfully pulling off a deception. I nodded and asked appropriate questions, playing the role of the trusting husband, while mentally cataloging every lie. Amanda was so generous, Jennifer continued. She covered most of our meals since my cards were acting up. I'll have to pay her back once everything gets sorted out. Speaking of which, I said, I called the bank about the credit cards. They said the suspicious activity was centered around some restaurant charges and hotel bookings. Weird stuff. Jennifer's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Hotel bookings? Yeah, places we've never been. The fraud department thinks someone cloned your card. They're investigating. It wasn't true, but Jennifer didn't know that. I watched her process this information, saw the moment she realized that her paper trail with Richard might be scrutinized. I'm sure it's nothing, she said finally. These things happen. Absolutely. Though they did mention they might need to review all the charges from the past few months, just to establish a pattern. The color drained from her face. All of them. That's what they said. Boring stuff, really. I told them I'd help however I could. Jennifer excused herself to take a shower, and I heard her making a hushed phone call from the bathroom, probably warning Richard about the fictional investigation. Monday morning brought the first real test. Jennifer got ready for work with her usual efficiency, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she checked her phone constantly. Have a good day, I said, kissing her cheek as she headed for the door. You too. What are your plans? Thought I might clean out the garage. Maybe organize some of our old files. She froze. Files? You know, tax records, insurance stuff. We've got boxes of paperwork out there. Figured it was time to sort through it. That's really not necessary. Most of that stuff is probably outdated anyway. Better safe than sorry. Besides, I've got the time. After she left, I did exactly what I'd promised, but not in the way she expected. Instead of organizing our files, I was organizing my evidence. Screenshots of her emails, printed copies of her text messages, a detailed timeline of her lies. Everything carefully documented and stored in a safety deposit box I'd rented under my own name. The call came at lunch. David, I've been thinking about those files. Jennifer's voice was carefully casual. Maybe we should tackle that project together. This weekend, perhaps. No need to wait. I'm already halfway through. What have you found? Oh, the usual. Old utility bills, warranty information, nothing too exciting. Though I did come across some interesting restaurant receipts. Silence. Restaurant receipts. Yeah, from that place downtown. The expensive one. Funny thing is, I don't remember us ever eating there together. I probably took clients there. You know how it is in PR. Of course, that makes sense. Though some of the receipts are for two people. Dinner service. Kind of romantic for a client meeting. David, what are you getting at? I let the question hang in the air, counting the seconds of silence. Nothing, really. Just interesting to see where our money goes. Speaking of which, did you ever pay Amanda back for covering your meals this weekend? I'll take care of it. Great. I'd hate for her to be out of pocket because of our credit card issues. That evening, Jennifer came home with flowers and my favorite takeout. She was trying too hard, and we both knew it. I thought we could have a nice quiet evening, she said. Just the two of us. We ate dinner while she told me about her day, carefully edited stories that painted her as the dedicated professional I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. But I could see the calculation behind her eyes, the way she was studying my reactions. You seem different, she said finally. Different how? I don't know. More attentive, I guess. Like you're really listening. I'm always listening. Are you? She leaned forward, her green eyes searching my face. Because sometimes I feel like we're just going through the motions, like we're roommates instead of husband and wife. The irony was breathtaking. Here she was, fresh from a weekend with her lover, talking about how disconnected our marriage had become. Maybe you're right, I said. Maybe we both need to make more effort. Relief flooded her features. I'd like that. I'd really like that. Later, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and thought about the woman I'd married. Young, ambitious, full of dreams and plans. Somewhere along the way, she'd decided that I was holding her back instead of supporting her forward. The tragedy was that she was probably right. Not because I'd tried to limit her, but because she'd convinced herself that being married to a working-class guy was beneath her station. My phone buzzed with another text from Richard Morrison. We still need to talk. This is important. This time, I responded, Tuesday, Murphy's Garage on 5th Street, 7 p.m. Come alone. His reply was immediate. I'll be there. Oh, I smiled in the darkness. Jennifer wasn't the only one who could play games. Tuesday evening found me at Murphy's Garage 30 minutes early, checking inventory and organizing tools while I waited. The familiar sounds and smells of the shop calmed my nerves. This was my territory, my element. Richard Morrison arrived exactly on time, driving a silver BMW that probably cost more than I made in 2 years. He looked exactly like I'd expected. Perfectly styled hair, expensive suit, the kind of confident bearing that comes from never having to worry about money. He stepped into the garage like he was entering a foreign country, his polished shoes clicking on the concrete floor. David, that's me. I didn't stop what I was doing, didn't look up from the engine I was pretending to work on. We need to discuss Jennifer. Do we? I straightened up, wiping my hands on a rag. Because from where I'm standing, you've been discussing my wife plenty without me. His composure cracked slightly. Look, this isn't how I wanted things to go. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Richard. People make choices. You chose to pursue a married woman. She chose to lie to her husband. Those were decisions, not accidents. He ran a hand through his perfect hair, suddenly looking less confident. Jennifer's unhappy. She has been for a long time. And you're what, her knight in shining armor? I'm someone who appreciates what she brings to the table. Someone who sees her potential. I laughed, the sound echoing off the garage walls. Her potential? Richard, I've been seeing Jennifer's potential for 15 years. I supported her through college, celebrated every promotion, encouraged every dream. The difference is, I did it without asking her to betray anyone. She deserves better than this. He gestured around the garage with obvious disdain. Better than what? Better than a husband who's faithful? Better than someone who keeps his promises? Or just better than someone who doesn't drive a BMW? Richard's face flushed. This isn't about money, isn't it? Because from what I can see, you've been spending plenty of mine. Those restaurant bills, the hotel charges, the expensive gifts, all paid for with credit cards that have my name on them. His confidence evaporated completely. I didn't know. You didn't know she was using joint accounts to fund your affair? You didn't know that every dollar you spent on impressing her was money I earned? Come on, Richard. You're supposed to be smart enough to run a PR firm. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant sound of traffic outside. What do you want? He asked finally. I want you to understand something, I said, stepping closer. Jennifer thinks I'm stupid. She thinks I'm some simple, trusting fool who'll never figure out what she's doing. You probably think the same thing. I was close enough now to see the sweat beading on his forehead. But here's what you both missed. I'm not stupid, and I'm not helpless. I'm just patient, and my patience has run out. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. See, Jennifer's been playing a game where she gets to have everything. The stable husband, the exciting lover, the comfortable life, the thrilling affair. But games have rules, and she just broke the most important one. Which is, don't underestimate your opponent. Richard took a step back, bumping into a tool cart. Look, if it's money you want, I don't want your money, Richard. I want you to disappear. I can't do that. I love her. The words hung in the air like a challenge. I studied his face, looking for signs of sincerity, and found something that surprised me. He might actually believe what he was saying. You love her, I repeated. Enough to destroy her marriage? Enough to help her lie to someone who's never done anything but support her? Enough to give her the life she deserves? And what life is that? The one where she becomes the other woman in your life? Because, let's be honest, Richard, you're not going to leave your wife for Jennifer. Men like you never do. His face went white. How do you know about your wife, your kids, your reputation in the community? I smiled. I told you, I'm patient and thorough. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken from his company's website. Richard, at a charity event with his wife and 2 teenage children, all of them smiling for the camera. Does Jennifer know about them? About the family you forgot to mention during all those romantic dinners? Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I thought not, I continued. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to end things with Jennifer. Cleanly, quietly, professionally. You're going to tell her it was a mistake, that you can't continue, whatever story you need to tell. But it's over. And if I don't, then I make some phone calls. Your wife, your business partners, your clients. I share some very interesting photographs and documentation. I let everyone know exactly what kind of man Richard Morrison really is. The threat hit home. I could see him calculating the cost, his marriage, his business, his reputation. You're bluffing. I pulled out a manila envelope and handed it to him. Inside were copies of his emails with Jennifer, printed screenshots of their text conversations, even photos I'd taken of him entering and leaving hotels. Am I? Richard flipped through the documents, his face growing paler with each page. This is blackmail. This is consequences, I corrected. You made choices, Richard. Now you get to live with them. He closed the envelope with shaking hands. What about Jennifer? Jennifer's my problem, not yours. Your only concern is staying away from her. She won't understand. She'll think exactly what you tell her to think. You're in PR, Richard. I'm sure you'll figure out how to spin it. I walked back to the engine I'd been working on, dismissing him with my body language. This isn't over, he said from the doorway. I looked up one last time. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. After he left, I sat in the quiet garage and thought about what I'd just done. For 15 years, I'd been the reasonable one, the compromising one, the one who avoided confrontation. But reasonable men finish last, and I was tired of losing. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. I typed back. No problem. Productive evening here too. More productive than she could possibly imagine. The change in Jennifer was immediate and obvious. Wednesday morning, she was distracted, checking her phone constantly and jumping every time it rang. By Thursday, she was barely eating, dark circles under her eyes, despite the expensive concealer she'd started applying with a heavy hand. Everything okay? I asked over breakfast, playing the concerned husband perfectly. Fine, just work stress. Big client presentation coming up. Anything I can help with? She looked at me sharply, as if searching for hidden meaning in the offer. No, it's complicated PR stuff. You wouldn't understand. The casual dismissal would have stung a week ago. Now it just confirmed what I already knew about how she saw me. That evening, Jennifer's phone rang during dinner. She glanced at the screen, and I caught a flash of Richard's name before she declined the call. Not important, she said, but her hands were shaking. The phone rang again immediately. This time she turned it off completely. Persistent telemarketers, she explained with a forced laugh. Friday brought the explosion I'd been waiting for. Jennifer came home from work, looking like she'd been hit by a truck, her perfect composure finally cracking. "I need a drink," she announced, heading straight for the wine cabinet. "Rough day?" She poured herself a generous glass of red wine and drank half of it in one gulp. "You could say that. Want to talk about it? Richard Morrison is a lying, manipulative snake," she said, the words tumbling out in a rush of anger and hurt. I raised an eyebrow. "Your boss. We had a disagreement about a project. Turns out he's not the man I thought he was." The understatement of the century, but I played along. "I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?" Jennifer finished her wine and poured another glass. "He led me to believe we were working towards something together. A partnership, you know. Then today he basically told me it was all in my head. That's terrible. You must feel betrayed." She looked at me with surprise, as if she'd forgotten I was capable of empathy. "I do. I feel like such an idiot." "You're not an idiot, Jennifer. You trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a character flaw, it's human nature. The irony of comforting my wife over